A common question asked by people who are involved in exercise or any type of physical activity or sport is, how long should I wait to work out or participate in sports after eating a meal? A lot of it depends on your overall diet. For example, if you're following a very low carbohydrate or ketogenic diet, which features a daily carbohydrate intake of 20 grams of carbohydrates or less, having some carbs before the workout within, let's say, an hour or so can make a huge difference in how hard you're able to train. Because once your body fat levels are low and you're on a low carbohydrate or ketogenic diet, what's going to happen is you'll be strong, let's say, on the first set of an exercise, but by the third set, the muscle will be dead because there's just not enough glycogen. Muscle glycogen, that's the main fuel for anaerobic exercise like weight training. And if you're on a consistent low carbohydrate, or particularly a very low carbohydrate diet like a ketogenic diet, you'll find that you peter out after like 2 sets. If you're only doing 1 set, there's no problem. But even there, if let's say you're doing a 1 set high intensity workout, 1 set to failure, you're still going to be able to train with considerably more intensity if you have some glycogen in the muscles, because glycogen to a large extent determines how hard you can train, and also offsets the feeling of muscle fatigue. Generally speaking, it takes about 2 to 4 hours of food to completely move from your stomach to your small intestine. The larger the meal, the longer time it takes that you'll have to wait, to work out. Because if you eat a large meal and you go right to the gym or go right on the gym floor, it's very common to experience some nausea, gastrointestinal side effects. I used to see guys at Gold's Gym. They had a little dining area, and they had a little pro shop where they could buy food and put it in a microwave, and these were full meals. And I saw this guy eating a full meal, and he just ate the meal and went right onto the gym floor. So I said to him, don't you think it's a little bit too soon? I mean, you just ate and popped right on the gym floor. He said, I need the energy from the meal. And I'm thinking, my God, this guy knows nothing about digestion. He somehow thinks that the calories or the carbs from that meal go directly into his muscles with no digestion whatsoever. The truth of the matter is that meal will sit in his stomach throughout the duration of his workout, because when you work out, blood is diverted from your stomach. The blood is involved in the process of digestion, and it's diverted from your stomach to your muscles because your body has a hierarchy of needs. When your muscles are working, your body doesn't know what the muscles are being used for. It could be to get you away from a predator or somebody chasing you. So the muscles would get priority over your digestive system. So in essence, what happens is any meal you eat too close to a workout sits in your stomach the entire time that you work out. And then once you finish, the digestion begins again. Now, some people can handle it, some people can't. For most people, 1 to 2 hours is sufficient after a moderate-sized meal, while waiting about 30 minutes after a small snack is also fine. Small snack could be like a protein bar, piece of fruit, banana, something like that. That's what constitutes a snack. Again, the larger the meal, if you want to have full glycogen replenishment, that actually takes about 4 hours. In other words, let's say you're training twice a day. If you're training twice a day and you exhaust a certain amount of muscle glycogen in the first workout, it's kind of important to have a meal in between the first and second workouts that contains some carbohydrates if you want maximum training energy and intensity. And you want to eat that meal about 4 hours before the second workout, because it takes 4 hours for it's not so much the digestive process, but it takes 4 hours for the carbohydrates through the enzymatic machinery in the body to be converted into muscle glycogen that you'll notice when you work out. So again, that depends on the situation also. When it comes to eating before exercise, meal size and composition plays a significant role. The larger the meal you eat, the longer it will take to digest, as I said earlier, increasing the amount of time you should wait before exercising. In addition, the composition of the meal also affects the workout time. Meals that are higher in fat, protein, and fiber tend to be digested slower than those containing a larger proportion of simple carbs. Simple carbs are quick-acting carbs that are digested pretty rapidly, and more processed proteins, such as those found in some protein shakes and supplements. Average protein drink before a workout, I'd give it about an hour. And that's this way you'll get the benefits of the amino acids that you, especially if the drink is something like a whey protein. If the drink is a casein-based protein, you'll still get some benefit, but that's more extended. Casein releases the amino acids over a period of about 7 hours. So, again, how fast that protein drink gets in your blood depends on the composition of the protein, with whey protein actually peaking at about 60 minutes in the blood, the amino acids, I should say. High protein foods, of course, animal protein foods, beef, pork, chicken, fish. Eating too close to working out can cause some digestive discomforts in some people. And the typical digestive discomforts that you might experience is bloating, nausea, cramping, reflux, where the food comes back up your esophagus, vomiting, diarrhea, sluggishness. Oh man! In all the years I've trained, I can't. I've seen so many guys. Let's say after a hard squat workout, while they're squatting, I've seen guys. They've eaten too soon before the workout, and then they do a heavy, intense squat workout, and they either vomit on themselves, and in some cases, a couple of guys actually crapped in their pants, which is really bad. But this is what happens when you eat a large meal before doing something like a heavy squat workout. You got to be careful of that. Now, the existing research suggests that endurance athletes like runners and cyclists, they're at the highest risk of experiencing these side effects, probably because of the pounding and all the movement involved. The stomach churning and all that. That's why they're the ones at greatest risk for having digestive difficulties if they eat too close to a workout. And when fueling up for an intense training session, it's important. Eating too close to the workout may harm your performance. Athletes and recreational gym goers often experience a feeling of sluggishness when exercising right after a meal. One reason for that, from a physiological point of view, is when you eat a meal, whether it's protein or carbs, there's an insulin response. You stimulate a certain amount of insulin. The insulin is involved in amino acid uptake into muscle. It's also involved, of course, in glucose uptake into cells. But a side effect of insulin release is it also stimulates the brain neurotransmitter serotonin. Serotonin is involved in the onset of sleep and also relaxation, and it can also induce a feeling of sluggishness. So the reason why you might feel sluggish right after eating a meal, especially during training, would be that the insulin has stimulated a serotonin release in the brain. One way to offset this would be to ingest take a little bit of branched chain amino acids, which that actually prevents the uptake of another amino acid called tryptophan into the brain. The tryptophan is converted into serotonin. That might help a bit, but usually this only happens when you're working out more than 2 hours. If you're working out less than 2 hours, this is not something to even think about. A small study of 10 male basketball players found that several of them experienced nausea, belching, and stomach bloating when a protein and carb meal was consumed before training. The good part is that consuming the protein and carb drink actually lowered indices of muscle protein breakdown, such as the enzyme creatine kinase. However, they experienced these digestive upsets. The study involved 10 well-trained male basketball players who consumed either carbohydrates at a rate of 1 gram per kilogram of body mass, with protein, also 1 gram per kilogram body mass, or carbohydrate alone, which was 2 grams per kilogram of body mass, in a randomized crossover design, 90 minutes before completing an 87-minute exercise protocol. If you're involved in weight training, you should wait at least 30 minutes after eating a snack and 1 to 2 hours after a small meal. Again, the larger the meal, the longer you should wait, up to 4 hours if it's a large meal. Also, consuming, by the way, the only time I've ever had problem with this, I won't say it was in Vegas, where they have these all-you-can-eat buffets. I went to one of these all-you-can-eat buffets, and then I went within 20 minutes right to a local gym, and I got pretty messed up. I had severe gastrointestinal distress. I didn't embarrass myself by vomiting or anything like that, but it really was tough. I learned a lesson from that. You don't go to a gym right after a large meal. That's just plain stupid. After consuming fast-acting carbs prior to training, consuming fast-acting carbohydrates prior to training will blunt the use of fat as a fuel source. In other words, when you're eating something with carbohydrates, you're providing the most easily available fuel for the body. So the body has no reason to tap into fat stores if you're providing it with readily available energy. So that's the bad part. If you eat carbohydrates before you train, don't expect much fat oxidation during that workout. However, for longer workouts, sipping a drink that contains about 6% carbs and no more than 8% carbs will maintain blood glucose levels. That's more important if the workouts are over 2 hours long, or if you're on a low-carb diet and experience energy drops during the workout. Adding a small amount of fructose to the drink will allow greater uptake of the carbohydrates, because fructose and glucose have different what they call carriers that bring them into the muscles. Glucose uses a carrier called GLUT4, whereas fructose uses GLUT5. And because of the fact that they have different carriers that for uptake into the body, when you add fructose, you can alone. Recent studies show that ingesting a protein source prior to a fasted exercise will produce a greater degree of fat oxidation compared to eating nothing. A lot of people like to do fasted aerobics. Well, believe it or not, if you have some not carbohydrate, but if you have a protein drink before doing that rather than nothing, you will actually increase fat oxidation during the fasted compared to eating nothing at all. Useful supplements to ingest prior to training include creatine. You don't need more than a teaspoon, which is 5 grams. Beta-alanine, I'd say, it depends on your tolerance to beta-alanine. Some people, ingesting more than 800 milligrams, they get this thing called paresthesia, which is like a tingling feeling in the skin that some people find uncomfortable. If that's the case, keep your beta-alanine dosage to 800 milligrams to no more than 1 gram. If you could tolerate more, that's fine. If you could take up to 2 grams, that would be better. Usually, if you've used beta-alanine for a while, you have a greater tolerance to that particular side effect. Let's see, another one, caffeine, of course. Caffeine stimulates, also will increase your energy and make you feel a little bit more energetic. It's a stimulant. It also increases mobilization of fat, which is good. And to get a ergogenic effect from coffee, you'd have to drink about 3 to 4 cups of coffee. Again, about 30 to 40 minutes before training for best results. Caffeine reaches a peak in the blood in 60 minutes, but it actually takes about 6 hours to break down fully. So a lot of people wonder about pre-workout supplements. They may help if your energy levels are low. I've used them myself. Most of them contain like caffeine and the standard couple of herbal things that are supposed to, herbal substances that are supposed to increase energy and all that. They could be useful, but I would avoid any pre-workouts that contain stimulants. Like a couple of years ago, they had one that had a stimulant called DMAA, which was an old-time stimulant they dug out. They're always coming up with these new stimulants because a lot of these guys are more or less like sneaky speed freaks. They like the feeling that stimulants give them. They like that, that rush. So they buy these crazy supplements, blast off and whatever they're called, and they contain these old-time stimulants that were around in the 40s and pulled by some renegade chemist found them, put them in these supplements. But the truth is, stuff like DMAA, you can have an idiosyncratic reaction. It's caused a couple of strokes in people. And the problem with these esoteric stimulants is that there really is very little human research, and they weren't designed. None of them were designed to be used in pre-workout supplements. So you're kind of entering uncharted territory. I wouldn't recommend it. If you have any kind of pre-existing condition, like high blood pressure or hypertension, or any kind of heart rhythm disturbance, and you take stuff like this, it could be extremely dangerous to the point where you might either go to the emergency room or the morgue, depending on how bad your reaction is to them. So that's about it. I'm going to keep this video short and sweet. Sweet in the sense that I told you to eat some carbohydrates. That's a bad joke. Anyway, that's about it for this subject. If you want more information on nutrition, exercise science, hormonal therapy, anti-aging research you can use today, fat loss techniques that really work, ergogenic aids, women's health and fitness, many other topics, I cover more topics in my Applied Metabolics newsletter, www.appliedmetabolics.com, than any other digital news publication on the entire internet. Nobody covers as many topics as me. Nobody comes close to my 58 years of experience, constant study, and learning. Nobody even comes close. I don't care if they have 50 PhDs. They're not going to match my level of experience in the real world gym training as well as study over the years. They don't come close. I've seen the other publications. Most of them read like medical journals. I'm into science. I can't even get through a paragraph of these things without falling asleep. In contrast, I'm a professional writer. I wrote for magazines for about 40 years. I know how to write for the public. I know how to make technical topics completely understandable by anyone who's reached the 6th grade education. So you won't have any trouble understanding my Applied Metabolics newsletter. And when you subscribe, I'll send you an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, where each day I post new information on exercise, nutrition, and general medicine, and exercise science too. And also I have a email portal on my Applied Metabolics Facebook page. My Applied Metabolics webpage, where current subscribers only, I don't answer unsolicited questions, can ask me short questions related to anything they might have heard in a video or anything they read in the Applied Metabolics. I'll be happy to answer, or anything else that comes to mind if they're not sure about a certain supplement. But I'm not going to answer unsolicited questions. I mean, frankly, if you're too cheap to if you're too cheap to subscribe, my newsletter is actually less expensive than most of the digital publications. If you're too cheap to subscribe, I ain't going to answer your question. It's that simple. If you could pay me if you want an answer, because I do plenty of what they call de novo, like these videos. I don't make a dime on them. I do plenty of free work. I don't have time to do answer constant questions of people that won't even subscribe. So but if you do subscribe, I will answer your question. Let's see, that's about it really. Applied Metabolics, 40 to 50 pages, no ads, no BS. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I mean, it seems like all these, I look at some of these YouTube videos. I mean, even the ones that seem to be information oriented, somewhere along the line, they always try and sell you something. Always, by the end of the video, middle of the video, they always mention products or something like that. And some of these, 9 out of 10 of them are like that. The only thing I'm really selling here is my newsletter, to be honest with you, Applied Metabolics. And the main reason I do these videos is to let people know of the existence of my Applied Metabolics news. I don't mind also giving out information if people find it useful. That's great. So that's about it. If you want to have the best friend you'll ever have, you go to your local shelter, adopt a dog, take care.